Thank you everyone for joining us in this final session of the Db2 stream. We have Keziah Knopp, and unfortunately Anna McKee of IBM isn't very well, so she's deputized to her beautiful assistant Mark Rader, whose dulcet tones we've just enjoyed hearing about Db2 for zOS recovery basics. Today's session is continuous delivery. What is it and how does Db2 do it? And as always, please remember to fill in your evaluation forms at the end. So over to you, Keziah and Mark.
Thank you very much, Marcus. Yes, Keziah is my teammate at the Washington Systems Center. So Keziah, you want to say a couple words?
Hello, yes, I've been working with Mark Rader. I'm a Db2 for zOS specialist out of Washington Systems Center. However, I'm in California, so the time is very early for me compared to some of you.
All right, thank you. And hopefully some of you were in the sessions I did this morning and yesterday, or for me this morning and yesterday. And if not, hello, I'm Mark, and I'm substituting for Anna at the last minute and at great expense. No, I'm just kidding. I really am disappointed that Anna couldn't make it. She did such a great job on putting the material together. I will try to do justice to her efforts. The agenda that we're going to cover today is to briefly talk about what is continuous delivery, right, to define it, and talk about why it was important to introduce continuous delivery. We're going to talk about how it interacts with your maintenance, applying maintenance and your maintenance strategy. And then we'll talk about code levels and function levels, catalog levels, and applicable path. We'll talk some about the display group command. We'll go into application considerations, and then I'm going to turn it over to Keziah to go step through how you activate a function level. And at the end, of course, there are some additional resources. We would like to be able to handle questions as they arise. So if you have a question, either type it in the chat, or I'm not sure if Zoom has a raise your hand function, but Marcus and Colin will let us know if there's a question. Sometimes it's important to ask the question when it arises because of the nature of this material. So please ask your question. And if we get too far behind, then we'll cut them off until the end. And to save on bandwidth, because occasionally I have problems, I'm going to stop my video after one final farewell wave, and then we'll continue on with the material. Okay. What is continuous delivery and why was it introduced? So what is continuous delivery is the idea of delivering significant enhancements, new features, new functions, preventive service, and prescriptive service through the Db2 for zOS service stream, rather than waiting for another release, right? Just everything gets included in the service stream. Traditionally, there would be a new Db2 release every 3 years. So for example, Db2 10 was in 2010, Db2 11 in 2013, Db2 12 in 2016. And coming up with new releases would be such a large change that customers found it disruptive. There were challenges in getting that much change into an environment. There was so much testing. Plus, that meant if you had a brilliant idea and you came up with this brilliant idea just before a release, it might take the entire next release to implement the idea or longer. And customers, of course, would rather have the new materials delivered faster. So with continuous delivery, the versions themselves would change less frequently because version migrations would only happen when there's significant work in the base product, significant control blocks or something, versus just bringing out a few features. And we can do those few features on a regular cadence, 3 or 4 times a year. And so customers can get new features and take advantage of new capabilities as soon as they're ready. The idea is to reduce the time to adopt the functionality and to adapt it into your environment. And there are protections built into continuous delivery so that your applications can continue running compatibly the way they did before, even if new features and functions are available in your environment. They don't have to suddenly change. The applications can continue as they were. So why did we introduce it, right? So again, here is the timeline, which I referred to a little bit earlier, and you can see the various function levels as they started coming out. And we're looking, between 3 and 4 per year as we roll forward. And we're going to continue with continuous delivery into Db2 13. When we get into continuous deliveries, there are 4 things that you have to think about, right? There are code levels, there are function levels, there are catalog levels, and there's application compatibility, which for short, I will call Apple Compat. Although I have heard it pronounced Apple Compat. Now, the system components are the function levels, the code level, and the catalog level. So the code level is what happens every time you apply maintenance. Certain maintenance will increase your code level. Now you can apply regular maintenance, preferably with the RSU process, which is the recommended service update process. You can apply that code as you go along, and it won't always change your quote code level. But every so often, you will hit a specific set of maintenance that will change your code level, and that code level will support higher levels of catalog levels and function levels. Function levels are going to be new Db2 capabilities and enhancements delivered in the service stream, and the catalog level is going to be a specific evolution of the catalog, which is required for some of the function levels. Application compatibility level is a specification at the package level for your production or test and development, but any of your packages to specify when your application is going to take advantage of new features and functions. If you don't change the application compatibility level of your package, you can keep it running the way it is today until that level of compatibility is no longer supported. We are still supporting application compatibility version 10, release 1. So a function level. For a function level, features and capabilities that are bounded by a function level are not active when they're first applied to the system, right? They are in your environment, but you have to actually do something specific. And that is, you have to issue the activate command. And Keziah will be taking you through that process a little later on. If you activate a particular function level, it will also activate any function level below that. So for example, were you to activate function level V12R1 M505 and be at function level 505, you would also have activated 501, 502, 503, and 504 if you hadn't already. Applications themselves will not be impacted when you change a function level because applications are fenced around application compatibility. So existing applications will continue to run as they were. And then if you want the application to take advantage of the new features in the function level 505 that you just activated, then you would have to have someone bind the package or rebind the package, depending on the nature of the change, to use the new application compatibility level. When we look at the nomenclature for the function level, V12R1 M505, as I said before, or here, the new one for version 13 is V13R1 M500. This breaks down into component parts. So V13 means version 13, Db2, R1 is release 1, and M is modification level. And we've been using the concept of version, release, and modification for many years, and we've adapted it to this particular format for Db2 continuous delivery. So the number after the modification level is what we're calling the function level. The DB2 level or code level, which you can see in a display group, for example, is an abridgment, right? It's a more concise way of saying the same thing. We'll see later in a display group command, there's a little space for the DB2 level, and it only has 6 characters. So we're going to take the digits from V13 R1M500 and give you 131500, and that says that your DB2 level is at the level of maintenance to support function level 500. So again, version, release, and modification or function level. Now, when you migrate to the next DB2 release, which for us is DB2 13, your function level will be function level 100. So when you enter DB2 13, you're at function level 100. If you had first installed a brand new DB2 12, you would have been at function level 500. If you install a brand new DB2 13, you will actually be at function level 501. To get to DB2 13, you're going to have to be at function level V12 R1M 510 before you can start the migration. You're not allowed to migrate to version 13 from anything less than function level 510. Now, I mentioned a code level before, also called maintenance level. So this describes the state of the code that's on your system. And the way you change code on your system, of course, is you use SMPE, like we always have, and preferably you're applying maintenance that you get from ShopC based on the RSU or recommended service update, because then DB2 and other subsystems have all been tested together. So you raise the code level by applying maintenance. If you have multiple members in a data sharing group, you can have different code levels on each member. And this would be a pretty typical thing. Imagine a 4-way data sharing environment, and I put new code on one of the members one weekend, and I wait a week and put code on that same code on the next member. And so for a period of time, you're going to have different code levels on the different machines, but over time, they'll tend to be at the same place. The catalog level, to advance the catalog level, you're going to use the catmaint utility. Catmaint will then go through and make whatever changes are required to the catalog, the various objects in the catalog, to achieve the target. So if you specify, let's say you're running version 12 and you're at function level 502, and you're ready to go right to function level 510 of DB212, you can run catmaint and specify either V12 R1M 509 or V12 R1M 510, and catmaint will apply all the catalog updates that are required to get you all the way to function level 510. The highest catalog level in version 12 is V12 R1M 509, but if you specify 510, DB2 will figure it out and will bring you all the way up to catalog level 509. You don't need to do catalog changes, right? You don't need to run catmaint until you're trying to get to a function level that has that catmaint, that catalog level, as a prerequisite. So depending on what you're doing, you might have to advance function levels a certain distance before you can get to a catmaint. And of course, to do the catmaint, to get to a new catalog level, all the members have to be at a minimum required code level that supports that catalog change. So there are some interesting relationships. Catalog level and function level are cumulative, meaning that as you go forward and activate a function level, or as you go forward and update a new catalog level, any of the changes up to that point will be applied. So the function level that a DB2 member can run is related to the code level, right? So I can't just specify any function level. I have to have enough code to support the function level activation I'm trying to do. And so we need to have the code at the right level, and then you can activate the function level, And for some function levels, you'll have to do a cat-mate and do an update catalog level first. So for example, for function level 505 in DB212, you need to do a cat-mate before you could do the function level. I referred earlier to the display group command. And here's a quick view of the display group command. Those of you who are not in data sharing, hopefully you've already gotten used to issuing display group commands, because this is how we find out, even for your standalone DB2 subsystem, what's going on. So we have some pointers here. You'll notice that the catalog level is described. In this environment that Anna was running, her catalog is at v13r1m500. And you see the current function level, and you see the highest activated function level and the highest possible function level to be activated. At the bottom, you can see in blue where the code level shows up, right? And so this is because of the nature of the display, we have restricted a number of characters. So we're taking v13r1m502 in this case, and just describing it as 13.1.502. So in this system, they have the function level 502, sorry, maintenance up to 502 in this environment. Let's talk briefly about application considerations. AppleCompat can be used to test and deploy applications at a specific function level and to stabilize their functional environment for that application. What does this mean? This means that as we change code level and as we change function level, we are not going to change how the applications behave. The application and the SQL behavior of that application will continue to behave as it did in the prior, from wherever it came from. So if your application is still bound with AppleCompat v11r1, it's still behaving as if it's running version 11 code. Application compatibility controls the behavior of DML, right? Select, insert, update, delete, merge, truncate, and so on. It also controls data definition language, right? Create, alter, drop. And it controls DCL, grant, revoke, and similar. So if you're using a package to do DDL, maybe the DB2 administration tool, maybe Spoofy, maybe DSN-TEP2, each one of those programs has a package, and the DDL that you're able to execute and the way that DDL behaves will depend on the application compatibility level of the package for the DB2 admin tool or Spoofy or DSN-TEP2 or whatever other vendor tool you're using to do this, because all of those tools are running in a package, and the application compatibility of that package will determine how that DDL or DCL or DML behaves. So it's really a DB2 package thing. Everything in DB2 runs under package, and it's the application compatibility level of the package that determines which SQL will work and how the SQL will work. If you are writing a new program and you come up and you're going to bind the package for that program and you don't specify AppleCompat for that package will receive the AppleCompat value that's in the AppleCompat entry for the subsystem parameters, right? DSN zparm. So I've got a new package. I somehow neglected to specify AppleCompat. I'll pick up whatever's in zparm. What if my system programmer left the zparm at v11r1? Now my package says v11r1, and I'll be restricted to version 11 behavior. Do I need to use the zparm to set AppleCompat? No. If I bind a new package, I can specify what I need. I know I've got SQL in this new package that's going to use features in DB212 function level 505. So I bind this package and I specify application compatibility v12 r1 m505. Or I have a variety of SQL. I don't know what's in it, but it's been tested thoroughly in a test environment that's already at 510. So I can say AppleCompat, if I want, I can say AppleCompat v12 r1 m510. So that was the bind package. On the lower right, we have rebind package. If you issue rebind package without saying anything else, then you're going to keep the Apple compat that the package has. How many of your packages already have an Apple compat setting? Well, if you rebound all of your packages when you went to version 12, then all of your packages have an Apple compat setting. We introduced application compatibility in version 11 to protect you from, potentially incompatible changes. So if you bound a package in version 11, you probably have an Apple compat value already because zparm had a setting, and whatever it was at the time that you bound the package in version 11, that's the Apple compat you have. If you're running a package that you first bound in version 10, and you haven't done anything to it since then, it will not have an Apple compat setting. And if you do a rebind of that package in version 12, you will get whatever's in zparm for your Apple compat setting. So our recommendation is to make sure that the processes or tools that you use to manage change control for your packages and to do code promotion and all those things, we recommend that you actively specify application compatibility so you know what you're getting and not just picking it up by default. So after a new function level is considered stable, rebind your DBA packages, right? So your things like admin tool or the other vendor tools that accomplish the same thing, Spoofy, TEP2, and so on. You can rebind application static packages. If you're not changing the SQL, you don't need to change the Apple compat level, but it is nice, especially on a new version, to get the new version's runtime structures, and so rebind is recommended. You can rebind your dynamic packages, and then for your distributed packages, you may want to have separate collections so you can distinguish between different parts of your distributed community who need certain capabilities and others who don't need those capabilities. So you want to direct the ones who need the new SQL features to collections that are bound with a higher application compatibility level versus distributed users who are using other programs that don't need the latest, or who for some reason are running SQL that depends upon previous behavior, in which case they'll be bound with the package with an older collection, with an older Apple compatibility setting for that package. So how does this interact with maintenance, right? Because we're always asking people to apply maintenance to their DB2 environment. We'd like for you to apply maintenance, between 2 and 4 times a year to stay, to continue bringing in the fixes that you need and to make sure that you're not falling too far behind. So as you apply your maintenance, some of the maintenance will include the new features, right? Some of those features will be active as soon as the maintenance is applied. Some of the features will only be activated at a new function level. So when you, as part of the service stream, you will get an APAR that will be the one that says, okay, your service is now at, let's say, V12R1M507, and you can now that you have this maintenance, you can do the following things. You can do a cat maint for V12R1M507, and after that, you can do an activated function level V12R1M507. You should continue to apply maintenance as normal. You will get the information that the new capabilities are available, and then you can choose when it's time to activate a function level or when it's time to update the catalog to prepare for the next function level. So we're giving you a lot of choice, but we're giving you it all at a more frequent basis. So here's a simplified view of how all this works. There are infrastructure type changes, say enhancements to utilities, or things that relate to exploiting parallel sysplex, or, for example, enabling Db2 ZAI. And these kinds of infrastructure changes are delivered, I'll talk about how they're delivered in a minute. There's another broad category of changes which are significant system enhancements. For example, adding encryption key label to zparms, or the Huffman compression algorithm, or rebind phase-in, right? And then there's the third broad category, and that's SQL related changes. So either new SQL or changed variations on SQL statements, or SQL that produces different results than you were expecting. And here are a few examples, right? List ag, setting a key label, encrypt data key or decrypt data key, or using dec float columns and indexes. So these are all about SQL specific changes, whether it's DML or DDL or DCL. So the first category is module level or code level dependent. As soon as you apply the maintenance, those changes are in effect, right? If the maintenance that you're bringing in has some utility enhancements, those utility enhancements are ready to use. Parallel sysplex, ready to go. When you applied the maintenance for V12R1M503, that was all DB2 needed to be able to enable DB2 zAI. Well, you needed DB2 zAI, of course, but that maintenance level V12R1M503 was sufficient to enable DB2 zAI, and you still only had to be at a functional level 500 to use it. The significant system enhancements are function level dependent. So they're in the code, they're ready to go, but they're not active yet. Some of them will require a catalog change, right? You'll have to update the catalog before you can enable those. In this particular case, the encryption key label was function level 502, Huffman was 504, and rebind phase-in was 505. And then all the SQL related changes are Apple compat dependent. So they're in your system, but they're dormant. They're not going to affect any applications until someone takes some specific action to bind their package with the appropriate application compatibility level. So general recommendation, as I suggested before, we want you to apply maintenance 3 or 4 times a year if you can, using the latest quarterly RSU or the quarterly RSU plus 1 month as the base. And as you roll that through your environment, from your systems environment through your various development testing environments up to production, by the time they get to production, you should have gotten enough exposure and tested enough to be comfortable that it's ready for your production environments. A particular RSU level may or may not contain PTFs for a specific function level, right? We're going to be rolling out parts of function levels all along, and once everything for the function level is there, then you will get one of the PTFs will say yes, or one of the APARs will say yes. This APAR, caps off and makes the next function level available. If you are an early adopter, if you are eager to get the new SQL behaviors or the new function level capabilities, or even the new parallel sysplex exploitation, you may want to be more aggressive in applying your maintenance so you can get to these new features. And of course, we want you to apply the maintenance for a particular function level well before you tailor the catalog level or activate a function level, because once you update the catalog level or once you activate a function level, you cannot back off that code level. So if you're in a kind of shop that occasionally, for various reasons, decides to back off of some maintenance you applied, you want to make sure that you're comfortable that the maintenance is working across your environment before you either update a catalog level or activate a function level. Okay, time to test your knowledge. I don't know, Kazai, if you want to keep an eye on the chat to see who puts in what answers, or we'll just do it on the honor system. But the question is, which of the following is not a component of DB2's continuous delivery? And the choices are A, function level, B, code level, C, directory level, and D, catalog level. So I'll give you a moment to think about it and either test yourself quietly by your terminal or type the answer into chat. And the answer is directory level is not about continuous delivery. Okay, so we'll see how that goes. I have another test your knowledge. If a bind package is issued without an Apple compat specification, the package's Apple compat value will be the value of what? A, the Apple compat zparm, B, the setting for SQL level, C, the code level, or D, it will retain the package's current application compatibility or applicompat value. And I'll let you think about that for a second. 3, 2, 1, and the answer is it'll pick up the value of the applicompat setting in your subsystem parameters, DSNZ parm.
We had a lot of people in the chat, Mark.
Excellent. Are there any questions that have come in so far that we should cover before you take over?
There are currently no questions in the chat, but now is a great time to pause and see if anyone wants to type something or reach out and ask. And if not, I can certainly take over and start talking about activating a function level.
Okay.
Okay. So I'll go ahead and get started again. If you do have questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I think there may or may not be another tester knowledge question, so we like to keep you on your toes.
You can neither confirm nor deny the presence of more tester knowledge, right?
Exactly. I will neither confirm nor deny it. So to activate a function level, I know that Mark mentioned this a couple of times on the previous slide, and we have 6 easy steps that we're going to go through. I will pause. I do see that somebody just posted something in the chat. I have a quick question regarding bind package with applecompat. Let's take that before I get into activating a function level. Can you unmute? Yes, I don't know. Let me see. That might be a Marcus or Colin question. Let me see if I can find the participants.
Hello.
Oh, hello.
Yeah. First of all, yeah, it was very interesting topic, and thanks for that. Sharing. Definitely, it is going to help us in the future when we'll migrate. So, I have done this V11 to V12 and doing, but some still few of customers, they don't want to go when we try to bind with the latest application component. So still I know until unless we will not bind, they will not able to exploit new feature of Db2 V12 or V13. So is there any by default process is IBM is working or on the way where when we'll migrate automatically all the application bind or plan and packages will automatic get rebind rather than we are going manually? That is the first question. And the second one, we have seen there performance degradation when we have bind with the V11 or V12 or new function components, and later we need to do tuning of the SQL or something. I know they have exposed the bed SQL, but is there any way where we can minimize this effort?
Okay, those are excellent questions. So I'm going to rephrase them slightly and to make sure that I understood it, because there was a lot of information in there. So the first question was, is IBM going to have a process that will automatically rebind all your packages to upgrade the application compatibility for your packages? Is that what you asked?
Correct.
Okay, and so the answer is no. I have no knowledge of IBM doing an automatic rebind. Now, IBM will, when DB2 comes out, there are certain places where we recommend that you do rebinds, right? And certainly when you go from version 11 to version 12, if you rebind your packages in version 12, even if you keep the same access paths, right, either by using something like AP reuse, or because you've got the same access path when you didn't specify, it is still going to be more efficient, because in version 12, you will build a rebind will build the version 12 runtime structure. And the version 12 runtime structure is inherently more efficient than having version 12 run a version 11 runtime structure. Yes, it can do it, but there's additional code involved, right? So it's more efficient to rebind your package, even if you keep the same access path. Okay. So no, we're not going to do a mass rebind for you, and we're not going to enforce it. Sometime DB2 will tell you we're no longer going to support application compatibility v10 R1, but we haven't
Right.
stated that yet, right? And at some point after that, we'll say, no, we're not going to support v11 R1, but we haven't stated that yet. Okay, now let me see if I can paraphrase your second question.
But Mark,
Go ahead.
it is on the way. Maybe we can hear, but not down the line immediately within a 1 month or 1 year. But yes, that is a plan is there. We will hear from, we can expect from IBM saying that like V10 will not work from V13 onwards or so on. But that plan is there.
So again, IBM has not announced any dates, but when we decide, when the lab decides that there are reasons not to support V10 R1 anymore, you will get a lot of notice. It will be more than a month, right? It will. I expect it would be a lot more than a month, because you'll have to find all of those packages and decide what to do about them.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. And so your second question was, okay, you want to rebind your packages in version 12, as I was suggesting, and but you're afraid of getting a worse access path because, while it may or may not have been bad SQL, the fact of the matter is you're used to how it behaved in version 11, and you don't want it to behave worse in version 12, right?
Right.
So the primary ways to address that is with plan management, right? There's a ZParm called PLANMGMT, right? Short for plan management. And plan management allows DB2 to keep track of up to 3 access paths for a package. So you have the current one, and you have the previous one, and you have the original one. So one of the things you can do if you rebind a package from version 11 to version 12 is you can specify AP reuse error. And if you say AP reuse error and DB2 is not able to reuse the access path that you already have, then it won't redo the rebind. And that way you're protected. You'll keep running the way you were. Now, having said that, there are a lot of changes, and especially for complex SQL, there's a lot of improvements in version 12. So I would prefer that if you take any of the suspect SQL in a non-production environment and do the bind with an AP compare. An AP compare, DB2 will tell you, okay, this is what you had before, and here's your new access path. And then you can look and say, oh yeah, that's pretty much the same, or oh my goodness gracious, I went from index probe to table space scan. I don't like that at all, right? So AP compare and AP reuse between them give you a lot of capability to decide when it's safe to rebind or when you want to explore to take advantage of the new optimizer capabilities introduced in the new release. And we're going to have optimizer enhancements in version 13 as well. So similar concept, you're going to want to bind your packages in 13 to get the 13 runtime structure, but you may or may not want to use AP reuse to keep the access path with which you're familiar.
Okay. Yep, I got it.
All right. Thanks for asking the question.
Thank you so much, Mark. Thank you.
All right, Keziah, back to you.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for asking. So back to the 6 easy steps for activating a function level. The first one here, we have the display group command, and this is going to be just to check what your current function level is, what the highest function level possible is, and a couple of other details that would be included in this display group command, just to see where you are at. So Mark, if you go to the next slide, this should look very familiar, where yes. So in this example, we are going to be moving from V13 R1 M500 to V13 R1 M501. And this is the same display group commands that Mark showed us earlier. They're not highlighted here this time, but we do have the catalog level that's listed. Again, that's the V13 R1 M500. Thank you. On the right over there, we have the current function level, which is V13 R1 M500, which is what we are expecting in this particular case. The highest activated function level is V13 R1 M501. And then the highest possible one is V13R1M502. And the other thing to note that Mark pointed out earlier is that DB2 LVL or level at the bottom, 131502, that is the current code level that is available on this system. So this gives us a ton of information. We know where we are, we know where we're going, where we can go when we're activating a function level. And the highest possible function level is 502. However, we're going to be activating 501. So the next step is to apply maintenance if necessary. So Mark mentioned maintenance earlier. This includes RSUs, recommended service updates, or PTFs, such as program temporary fixes, to bring your DB2 subsystem or the entire data sharing group up to the required code level for your target function. Since we just looked at the display group command, we are at a good code level and function level for what we are trying to do to activate 501. So if you are up to date on all of your maintenance, this may not be necessary, but it is always good to check here in this step. And after applying maintenance, if necessary, we will move to step 3, where we can run catmate if necessary. This is this DSN TIJ TC job. This job takes an image copy of the DB2 catalog and directory. So you will run this job to run the catmate utility with level V13R1M501 in this particular case, since that's the level that we are trying to activate, or whatever level it is that you are moving to update the catalog to the appropriate level. And with this, you can use the single catmate job that specifies the target of the function level that we are going to in this activation process. And one important note here is that once you have set this code level for DB2, we recommend do not attempt to start DB2 at a lower code level after this catmate job for that higher function level has been completed. That is just helps your system run better. You're not going to hit any errors if you don't do that. And then once the catalog level changes are complete, DB2 will record those changes in the sysibm.sysLevelUpdates catalog table, and then it will issue a message to the console giving the update for what it did and where it's at. So this is what the DSN TIJ TC job looks like. We are updating the catalog for that new release or function level. And in this example, we have specified catmate update level, V13R1M501, that's listed here. So this is that step again to take that image copy for the DB2 catalog and directory here. And this brings us to step 4. This is an optional step, but we do recommend activating the function level test. So this is a particular command where you can test what the activating a function level would look like and give you without actually running the activate function level command. Once you do the test for it, there is a message that you will get that goes to the console that indicates whether the group is ready for the specified level in the test. So if we go to the next slide, we can see what this job looks like. We are looking at DSN TIJAF. This is for activating a function level, but if you look at the command that's listed here, we have activate function level V13R1M501, and then we have this keyword test here in the same line for this command. And this will again give us this output that lets us know whether the group is ready for that specified level or if it is not ready, it will give us all of that information, which is why we recommend testing this activate function level before you actually run it, just in case there is something that comes up that you maybe didn't really recognize was there, and you can address before you actually fully activate it. So then you will do the full activate function level. Again, if you've done the test, once you've done the test and you've resolved anything that may have come up, then you can run that same job again, that DSN TIJAF job. And this time, if you go to the next slide, you will notice that it is the exact same as the one that we just looked at, except there's no test in that command. It is blank right there. Yes, thank you, Mark. So you were simply activating the function level that we specified, v13 R1 M501. And assuming you did the test, you should expect the output to work, since you would have seen whether that group was ready or not and what that looked like. You could have tested multiple times to make sure that you were fully ready. And then once you activate it, it will seamlessly go to that next function level. So this brings me to the last step. This one is also optional and recommended as we have here. We recommend running a set of jobs that finalizes and sets everything up for you after you've activated the function level that you are going to. And we go into detail on the next slide for each of these, where DSN TIJUZ, that first one that's listed here, is for modifying the subsystem parameter module with the Apple compat value. This would have been specified on a previous panel that you were going through, and this is where you can update that Apple compat subsystem parameter here with that job. The second job, DSN TIJOZ or Z, will update subsystem parameters online. This is, you would issue the set sysparm command or set sysparm load to bring the Apple compat subsystem parameter changes online with that command. So that is what that job does, bringing those subsystem parameters online and up to date for you there. Oh, and we have one more of the optional jobs for that previous slide. No worries. That DSN TIJUA, this is used to modify the Db2 data application defaults module using that SQL level subsystem parameter. That can be updated here in this job. This will change the default SQL or SQL processing level for the precompile or coprocessor. So you can run that job for the SQL level subsystem parameter to be updated. And now, so activating a function level. So once you've activated a function level, you generally have the capability to fall back to a previous function level without having to change the code level or the catalog level. And when you do this, this is called a star function level. So in this example, if we are already at V12, in this particular example, we're at V12 R1 M501, and we want to go backwards to V12 R1 M500. Maybe there was something there that we wanted to have access to that we do not have with 501. So if we go back, then we are at V12 R1 M500 star, and no new applications can be bound with the previous higher function level with V12 R1 M501 in this example. And existing applications can be rebinded with Apple compat V12 R1 M501. So that Apple compat level will still be there even if we are moving back to that previous function level. And applications already bound with Apple compat V12 R1 M501 will continue to execute the function level 501 features since that had already been activated and in use. but just going forward, we will be V12 R1 M500 once we have moved back. Okay, so activating a function level. I mentioned this on an earlier slide, this sys IBM sys level updates table. And this is a table in the catalog that was introduced with DB2 version 12. And this helps keep track of the history of changes to each of these levels that we have been talking about in this presentation, to code levels, catalog levels, and function levels. So I will not read through each one of these changes that are available here, but we can see that there are function level, catalog level, group level, or group member, each little pieces of information that are helpful to track any changes to all of these levels that are here. So that sys level updates table is very helpful in terms of being able to look at what function level, catalog level, code level you are at. So here is that next test your knowledge question. So you can get ready to put your answer in the chat. What is the catalog table that helps track the history of changes to the code level, catalog level, and function level? We have A is sys IBM sys tables _ hist. We have sys IBM.sys function levels, or choice B. Choice C is sys IBM.sys tab stats, or D, sys IBM.sys level updates. And I see we have some people answering in the chat. I will give it another moment before moving on.
All right, looks like everybody's answering the same way. So let's go ahead and see if they're right.
Okay.
After I get the screen active, and yes,
it is B,
everybody's
sys
right.
IBM sys level updates, as I just talked about. Wonderful. And thank you, Mark. Okay, so here we have some additional resources for function levels for DB2, all of that. There is the what's new in DB212 for zOS IBM documentation. We also have a what's new for DB213 for zOS, also in IBM documentation. Again, you can click on these links and it will take you directly there when you have access to these slides. And we have exploring IBM DB2 for zOS CD, continuous delivery, that is listed here. Again, that is a red book available for your information. And the last one here listed is IBM DB212 for zOS function level activation and management. This is from Triton Consulting, and that goes into detail again on more activation and management for these function levels here. And this brings us to the last slide. Please submit your feedback. This is session 2K, and I am Keziah Knopp, and I've been presenting with Mark Rader, but Anna McKee was the one who developed these slides and these materials here. And the QR code should scan you directly to that feedback page.
I've been monitoring the chat and I haven't seen any more questions come in. So
I do have a trick question.
Okay.
What's the past tense of rebind? Is it rebound or rebinded?
That is a trick question. We have had all sorts of interesting conversations. I normally say rebound, but rebound is not a specific verb in SQL syntax.
Right.
We wanted to highlight that it was that rebind keyword there.
Yeah, that's always a fun conversation.
It is. I'd like to thank you, Keziah and Mark, for this really good, very interesting conversation. Please give our best get well soon wishes to Anna. I hope she does recover soon. Everybody else, please give thumbs up to session 2K. And we look forward to seeing you at the top of the hour for the Broadcom keynote. So thank you very much, both of you. Thanks everybody else for attending. The session is over.
Thank you, Marcus. Thank
Marcus.
you, Colin.
Thank you, Colin.